Hey guys, welcome back to my podcast, Steven Sulley Study. You can find me on Instagram at sully.steven, and I'm on Facebook as well. I'll be going on to LinkedIn soon. If you're getting a lot of value, all I would ask you to do is keep on listening to the episodes, but also suggest it to friends, family, colleagues, anyone that you feel is going to benefit from it. So today I want to talk to you about a model that I learned when I was going on my property courses. Part of the property courses wasn't just about property. It was, of course, about networking. It was about getting inspiration, motivation, and education from the people that were talking. Now, the two main guys who run the organisation is a guy called Mark Homer and Rob Moore, who is my mentor for my personal development stuff, my podcast. But then there's also other keynote speakers, and there was a guy called Ray McLennan who is a Scottish guy, and I remember hearing him on a podcast once talking about Angel's Den, and he really stood out for me because I feel like the Scottish accent is a real good accent to have when it comes down to pitching and also to presenting a product or a service, and he just had this really disarming tone. But what he was saying is there's a formula that he sticks to. He talks about this also in his own podcast, which is called How to Raise Money podcast, which I strongly suggest anyone who's into business, finance, investments, sales, closing. It's definitely a very good one for you to listen to. He came out with this model called C.R.E.S.T, which is an acronym for credibility, return, exit, safe, and time, which I'm going to go over in a minute. I feel when I listened to this, I took a lot from it, but I naturally started thinking about how I could use that by doing presentations, whether it be over the telephone, face-to-face, in any sales environment. I feel this is really good for inbound leads. So if you're doing Google ads, Facebook advertisement, Instagram adverts, and you're getting in inbound leads where they're asking you to give them a phone call, this is a really helpful tool in order to have a good presentation, make it very clear, make them understand what they're buying, and also close at the back end of it and ask for the order and get a commitment. You could also use this on driving in some business. So sometimes where you feel like you're going round and round the houses and you're not getting anywhere, you could use this model to help drive in the business and also for objection handling. One thing I want to just say, being in sales for roughly about 13-14 years now, you've always got to remember that a lead is a lead, and I feel in my own mind that I'm confident enough, experienced enough to identify real buyers opposed to people that are not suitable for your product or service. But I also do feel I would have the confidence to jump into Yellow Pages, for example, if I was starting a business for the very first time and I had no money, and I would be able to pitch people in there, whether they be businesses or individuals, and I would honestly feel I could convert these people. So the reason why I wanted to mention this is because I do see sometimes a lot of people complaining, moaning about certain leads that a company that they're working for, or they've been handed recently. At the end of the day, if you've got a credible product, something that's actually going to serve them and give them value, and you're bringing confidence, experience, knowledge, energy to that call, and you're following a simple process, you're going to close and you're going to make money, and you're going to give them certainly a good value and a good service at the same time. So I wanted just to say that. So going on to the C.R.E.S.T model, which again stands for credibility, return, exit, safe or safety, and time, which is time period. Let me break this down for you. So if I were to deal with an inbound lead, I would always qualify them on a couple of key things straight away. So I would say something along the lines of, you landed on our Facebook ad, our Google ad campaign. I got your email address down as this, read it back to them and get a yes out of them. You also qualified yourself to be this kind of level, whether it be 10,000, 20,000 on the Google ad page. If they say yes, a good way to see if you can push and upsell this person is just say, is that the maximum, or could you go higher if you really wanted to and if you saw value? You can test the waters very, very early on and to see if they're serious or not. And then what I would do is say, right, I want to walk you through a very simple model, which all business people that I'm around use. It's very, very easy to understand. It's going to give you absolute clarity about the product or service that we're working with. So please grab a pen and piece of paper. Reason why I say all the time, if you're doing a presentation, for them to grab a pen and piece of paper is because when I was getting into sales for the first time, they said you need to qualify on a few things. Number one, are they a decision maker? Can they make their own decisions? Are they able to? Are they eligible to? Number two, do they have the funds? Are they liquid? Do they actually have the financial wherewithal to participate inside your product, buy the consumable, or take advantage of the service? And the last one is, are they interested in it in the first place? Is it ticking their boxes? Is it going to serve them? Is it going to give them value to them and their family, and also to their finances in the future? The last one that I've added over the years is, are you able to take control of the sale, or take control of the scenario? And the way you know that is by getting them to get a pen and piece of paper. It's a very, very small trial close, but for me, if they're not willing to grab a pen and piece of paper and bring it back to the telephone or back to the presentation, no matter whether you're doing face-to-face or over the telephone, it probably suggests that they're not really interested in anything, and they're probably not going to be engaged. Because what the pen and piece of paper does, it allows you to know that they're engaged in the conversation. I have pitched people when they've been driving their car on hand-free sets, of course, or they've been, looking after their family, or they've been doing something else, and I have closed them and made money off the back end like that. But in my experience, it's much more unlikely for you to convert someone to get full commitment off of them if they're doing other things. I definitely wouldn't advise anyone to pitch someone whilst they're driving, because that could be quite dangerous. But also, like going back to the pen and piece of paper, my little rhyme is allow the pen to be your friend. And what I mean by that is when you're giving them some key points, rather than you expecting they to remember every single key point, percentage, advantages, parts of your service or product, they're not going to remember it. After an hour, after a day, after a week, they're going to forget about it. So at least if they've got a pen and piece of paper and they're taking notes of the key facts and the key things that they should be, can't even get my words out here today. The key things they need to remember, then at that point, you can touch on them later on down the line if they need clarification on a few of the points. So credibility. So I would say, write down C. This stands for credibility. Let me tell you why this product or service is very, very credible. So what you can do, you can cover 3 points of the credibility. You can talk about yourself, how credible you are. So how long you've been in the market for. It might be 5 years, it might be 10 years, it might be 15 years. My advice is always to be honest. Make sure you're honest and say, if you've been in the market for only a couple of years, well, talk about the certain things which are credible. Even though you've only been in the market for 2 years, what advantage does that give you? Well, you need to impress the owner of that company. You need to impress everybody around you. Most importantly, you need to impress your clients and yourself. And the way you're going to do that is by working even harder than anybody else in that company. And that is why working with you is very, very, very credible. Okay. Also, you also continue to learn and honestly stick by this. So for me, if I was pitching myself, I read every single day. I listen to a podcast every single day. I'm around a peer group that have made more money than me, that got more experience than me, that have got more credentials and credibility, and they've got more experience, knowledge, and maybe qualifications. And because I'm around them and I immerse myself around these people, it means that I become more valuable, and that means I can serve my clients, people like you. The other thing that you can talk about is your product. So let's just say it is a bond. You're pitching a corporate bond, very, very simple. And that bond, it's been around for, I don't know, a few years now. You've raised already about £2 or £3 million for that particular bond. Bonds are quite naturally are essentially a loan. So a person is loaning a company money via a bond, that vehicle, which they use that money to invest. They pay back the investors, and then both parties are very, very, very happy and getting value from that system. So bonds, they've been around for many, many years, and you can talk about the kind of people that invested into bonds. It could be, you know, certain celebrities. It could be certain influencers. It could be certain investment bankers. It could be people that you know. Anyone that holds a bit of weight and they've actually bought into these products or very, very similar ones, you know, you can name drop them, so to speak, because it's credible. And plus, if they're in the public domain and they've categorically said that they've invested into these products, then it's a no-brainer. I mean, one thing that I have an art agency called Woodbury House. We have one office over in Dubai where the director lives, and also we have a studio in Soho. And the main product that we represent is a guy called Richard Hambleton, who sadly died roughly about a year ago in 2017. And some of the people that have bought Richard Hambleton works, Bruce Willis, Alicia Keys, I've read. And I've also been told by a gentleman called Andy, who has told me that many other celebrities or people that hold a lot of weight have bought into the Richard Hambleton product, whether that be editions, limited editions, or original works. So you get my point. You know, you can list certain people that have bought into the product and how long the product's been around. And lastly, from the credibility point of view, is the company or brand that represents that particular product. Going back to my company, Woodbury House, we've been established as a brand for over 5 years. We've been in publications like Vogue. We've been in publications like Forbes. We've been in publications like Wall Street International. We've been in publications like Hypebeast, which have got about 5 or 6 million subscribers, which I've been told. We've been in Evening Standard, Mad Online. The list is endless, and that shows how credible that we are, because we've got into these publications, and we've done shows around the world, such as Dubai, quite naturally, which was our first show for Richard Hambleton. We've also done a show in Mexico City. We were one of the first companies to bring certain artists over there. We've done, quite naturally, a few shows in Soho in London. So that will cover over the 3 areas: yourself, the product and people that buy it, and also the company or brand that represents the product, the credibility, and use all factual information. Right, R. So write down R for me to the client. This stands for return. So if it was a bond and the company was offering 8% per annum or 10% per annum, and it was over a 3-year period, that means if they were to invest £100,000 into the product, they'll be getting £10,000 a return every single year. So if you take that over 3 years, that means they will be getting £30,000 back over 3 years in form of a dividend. And they will be getting £100,000 back after the bond has finished. So that means they're getting £130,000 back from that bond. That's the return. E is about exit. So after on the bond, if once the time period has been achieved, let's say it's a 3-year bond, at that point the exit for your initial principal will be exercise, and you'll be getting that money back. That works on bonds. Something like Richard Hambleton artwork, or any artwork which is known as a blue chip piece of art, or from a blue chip artist. There's a few ways you can sell it. We offer a distribution service where we don't buy pieces back, because we distribute on behalf of the artist or the estate or the copyright or even other clients. So you can distribute for us. The other way you could do it is you can sell it privately through a gallery, another art organisation. The last place you can sell it is via an auction house, someone like Phillips, Christie's, Sotheby's, just to name a few of these very, very credible organisations. A few of our clients have actually sold their original work through Christie's and Sotheby's, and they've made some very, very, very healthy returns. Don't take my word for that. It's online. You can see the estimates, and all the sales have been breaking through those estimates and absolutely smashing it out the water. So people are making very, very good returns. The S stands for safe or safety. Now, with something like a bond, they are usually asset backed, or they're insured in some kind of way. And then just describe what that means. So some of the bonds that my marketing company, Introducer Company, has promoted before in the past, they've got X amount of properties in their portfolio. So that means in the event of something not going quite right, and listen to my word there, my language, I don't say going wrong and then embedding something going wrong. What I choose to say is I make it a little bit of a weaker statement by saying if things don't go quite right, bearing in mind as well, guys, that the subconscious mind can't hear a negative. So if you say stuff like it's going wrong, they're going to just think about, it going, going wrong. So if you say to them something along the lines of, don't think about this going wrong, that's all they're going to think about. But the moment you change the language slightly and say something along the lines of, in the event of this not going right, they're only going to hear it's going right, if that makes sense. Anyway, I'll get onto another episode, another podcast about the subconscious mind, and also reframing, disarming certain statements, and why the subconscious mind can't process a negative. So anyway, going back to the point, in the event of something not going quite right, the company or the insurance organisation behind the bond, it could be a set of regulated lawyers, for example, will exercise the sellout clause, and it means that the investors get all their money back, and that's why this company gives you complete safety. The other thing about talking about safety is the track record. If this product has been around for a certain amount of time, then that gives you a huge amount of safety as well. The last thing is about time. So write down T, that stands for time. This is the last fifth point that makes up the C.R.E.S.T model. And the time period is over the next 2-3 years, this bond will mature. That's when you're going to get your money back. So it's a 3-year or a 5-year bond with something like a Richard Hamilton artwork, or even a fine wine product. You might be able to see the return within 2, 3, 4, 5 years, because history with the same product has made a return in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And only ever label absolute factual information. If this product is brand new and it's got no track record, be honest about it. I think the credibility of you being honest and transparent and clear will mean that people will buy into you, your product, your company, your service, and your brand, and they're gonna recognize that you're an honest person, and therefore they're gonna want to buy into it. Okay, so that's the C.R.E.S.T model, and at the end of that, I would simply ask for the order and simply make sure they've understood this. I would always pitch higher, so I would always go for what most of my clients go into the market for, between £50,000 to £100,000. Where do you see yourself? Leave it open. If they say something along the lines of, I see myself somewhere in the middle, say, throw me a figure, get them to answer it. Never feed them a figure, because the amount of people I hear saying, I'll come on board at the minimum at £5,000, which is fine. You're going to get a client on board, but you've kind of dictated to them how much they should be putting in, rather than them saying what their sort of dealing range is. Most people lose good sized deals just because they don't talk about big sized deals. They never talk about big figures going into a particular product or a service, and therefore they never make big figures themselves. So that's the C.R.E.S.T model. Remember, it stands for credibility, return, exit, safe, and time, which is time frame. Very, very good tool, system, and strategy to use for inbound leads. Very good strategy to use for overcoming objections, and it's definitely a very, very good strategy for driving in certain business. I hope you got value from this. Find me on Instagram at sully.steven. And I would love to hear from you guys. Please keep on subscribing. Have a fantastic day. And remember, be happy, never content.